Today I want to talk about the argument against Christian nonviolence, which says that since we see Christians in the Roman army as early as the mid-2nd century, then clearly the early church was okay with it. Now, adherents to Christian nonviolence aren't going to dispute this fact. Yes, there were Christian soldiers in the Roman army very early on. However, there are a number of things that you need to understand in order to properly interpret this historical fact. First, the church had problems with actions, not so much the position of soldiers. We can see this with John the Baptist when centurions come to him and say, "Hey, what do we need to do?" And John the Baptist says, don't do violence and don't extort and be content with your wages, depending on which translation you read. We also see this in a church document called the Apostolic Tradition, which says, be a soldier, but don't kill. You're probably thinking, don't kill? What do soldiers do? Well, during the Pax Romana, soldiers had a good chance of being construction workers or civil servants of sorts. It's the same for the U.S. military today, where most soldiers are in support roles rather than combat. We also get a hint of this sort of position when we take a look at the document, the Synod of Arles, which said that Christians were allowed to leave the army during times of warfare, while they had to remain committed during times of peace. And people are like, what do you mean they can leave during times of warfare? Don't you mean the opposite? Because you need bodies during war. But no, the Synod of Arles said, hey, look, we know that Christians might want to serve the state, but they don't want to kill. So during times of war, they're allowed to leave because they'd have to compromise their convictions. And that brings us to our second point, which is that the church's issue wasn't with being a soldier, but rather with becoming a soldier. One would expect that if Christians were evangelizing, that soldiers, some of them, would become Christians. And so the church was like, we don't want you to leave the Roman army and get executed because that's what would happen. We want you to be able to stay in and live a Christian life and be a good testimony. And so, if you can be a soldier without killing and without worshiping idols and giving into debauchery, then go ahead, stay in. But as Canon 12 of the ecumenical document, the Council of Nicaea says, do not rejoin the army when your term is up, and don't seek to join the army, because that's an excommunicable offense. So I kind of view the issue of soldiering sort of like the issue of slavery in the New Testament. The call to live like Christ and to live like a Christian would seem to phase both of these things out. Because clearly, I can't love my sister and treat her as if she's made in the image of God and enslave her. And I can't love my enemy, who's really my neighbor, if I kill him.